Welcome to Coast Vue, where we celebrate every single day the amazing people who make this such a great place to live and work and play. I say that every day. And when I use that, we're celebrating people who make coastal Mississippi a great place to live, work, and play. I don't just say it like a record. I say it from my heart. I really believe that. I love every single day having these conversations with incredible people of all walks of life who are bringing incredible value to coastal Mississippi. And one of the areas that I have focused on repeatedly on this show over the last over 600 shows is the military, because the military brings so much to coastal Mississippi. They bring amazing people here from all over the world. They bring, certainly from all over the United States, they bring incredible skill sets to this community that they offer in so many different ways. And when one of the reasons why we're so darn resilient here is because the military often, and their commitment to our community is often a part of the reason why we're able to bounce back so quickly, because they're so focused on helping us. One of the areas that we're most fortunate to have when we think about the challenges that coastal Mississippi has had, the challenges that America has had, are that really the challenges that any country around the world has been the role the Seabees play. The Naval Construction Battalion unit here in Gulfport and is very significant, and the kind of people they bring in here have literally worldwide leadership capabilities, and I'm always just thrilled to have this opportunity to focus on them. And today I want to welcome Captain Jeff Deviney to the conversation. He's the commander of the Naval Construction Group TWO, or they call it NCG2 for short. But anyway, Captain, how you doing?
Hey, great, Ricky. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here today.
So, look, I always like to. We're going to talk about sort of what you guys are involved in these days, and literally, you've got people literally all over the world, and we can come back to as well Road of Spain and the sort of the role that it plays, very significant for the CBs. But I want to start really talking about you. You grew up in Texas. You went to Texas Tech. And you eventually went into the Navy. And tell me about where you grew up and your decision to get into engineering.
Oh wow, it's a little bit of I took a little bit of a winding path to get there. It's funny. So I grew up in a small town in Texas, about 3,000 people, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I come from a Navy family. My dad was in the Navy. My two granddads were in the Navy, but I never really, it's just never something that I thought too hard about until I was in school. I was a journalism major for my first 2 years. So I wanted to write for Sports Illustrated. And then the more I looked into it, the more I realized that I probably wouldn't be writing for Sports Illustrated for a while. I'd be writing for a small Texas newspaper. And I thought maybe there's other better ways to make some money and earn a living. And I was always good at math, so I looked into engineering. So I dropped all my classes. I lost 2 years of school. My parents, I think they've forgiven me for that by now, and went to be an engineer major. And so from there, I found out about what's called the Civil Engineer Corps, the Seabees, and joined that, and did that right out of school, and thought I'd be in for 4 years. And here I am 25 years later, and still loving every minute of it.
What a great story. I actually was in pre-med and pretty far along, and decided that was not what I wanted to do. Went on to get an MBA, and the rest is history. But, I think as you get older, people find things that work for them. And, in your case, having a couple of years of journalism was really beneficial to you, because people who will listen to your and my conversation will quickly learn that you're an excellent communicator. But that journalism, that ability to write, the ability to communicate with people, is a major league component of being a good leader, isn't it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I'll tell you, because I know a lot of engineers, we're not always the best communicators. So yeah, having that background really kind of gave me a little bit of a leg up and allowed me to write and to speak. And so, yeah, so it's all that comes in handy, because it's easy to be it's not easy to be a good engineer, but you can be a good engineer, but you still have to learn how to be a leader and manage people and communicate with people. And so I think I've learned how to do that over these last 25 years.
So when you look back, I mean, obviously we can't go through it all, but you've had deployments to Iraq and Rota. I think what's interesting, and you're not the first leader in the CBs who's come through there who spent some time at the presidential retreat, Camp David. You were actually the commander there from 2015 to 2018. But what stands out for you when you look back on all of your assignments? What was, really life-changing experiences for you?
Oh gosh, I think so really, I think it started pretty early. I think, my first tour with the CBs back in 2003, I deployed to Afghanistan. I really got to see the world. I've had some pretty good duty stations in my life. We were in Iceland for 3 years, really early in my career. I've been to Hawaii for a couple of years, but that tour with the CBs really solidified the understanding that the Navy is a force for good, the military is a force for good in the United States, and then we can go and do good things. Just that, and the people I met. I've always thought that people join the military for a lot of reasons. A lot of it, just like myself, in different circumstances, will say, "Hey, look, I'm joining it so that I can figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life." But I think you stay in because of the people you meet, because of the quality of the people you meet. It's just I can't tell you how impressed I continue to be with the people of all services that I meet in the military, and it makes me proud to serve alongside them.
I think one of the things that I enjoy doing as part of this show is helping people who may not necessarily be aware that the CBs play so many different roles. There's a humanitarian part of what you do. Certainly, there's a military mission part of what you do. Certainly, there's a role in the local communities and so on. But it's vast. It's really vast, and that's sort of always been part of the history of the CBs, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. So we were born of a contingency, World War II, 80 years ago. This year, March 5th, is the 80th anniversary of the CBs. Prior to that, there really wasn't a naval construction force. And so, initially we were founded and we played a huge role in the island hopping campaign in World War II. We played a smaller role in Europe, but a huge part. There are 325,000 CBs in World War II compared to less than 10,000 today. But yeah, in the meantime, in the interwar period, and just ever since, what I like to say about the CBs is, other military branches, other military functions, they serve to protect and then to break things when a war comes. The great thing about the CBs is we exist to build things, to fix things. And so I think we really bring a lot to the fight, whether that be a wartime scenario or a humanitarian scenario. Just recently we responded to Hurricane Ida in Louisiana, Pensacola with Hurricane Zeta a couple of years ago. But prior to that, earthquakes in Haiti, disaster relief all over the world. When the Japanese had the nuclear meltdown several years ago, we responded to that. Tsunamis. It's really great to know you're part of an organization that makes people's lives better.
It is truly incredible what you guys are up to. And just so that the audience understands this, I had the opportunity to talk to Captain Deviney before the show started. And obviously, given the really sensitive geopolitical issues related to Ukraine, he's not in a position where we can discuss that today. Obviously, that's not something we're going to talk about. But I believe when you think about the massive humanitarian crisis that's underway and the other issues related to just what's happening inside Ukraine, that eventually we will hear that the CBs once again have played a significant role, maybe not directly involved in Ukraine, but certainly advising and whatever. It'll be interesting to hear more about that when they're able to talk about it. But I just wanted you to know, the audience to know, that we chatted, and he's not in a position where he can discuss it at this point. So I won't be surprised to learn in the future that the CBs were deeply engaged in that relief effort in some way or another. It is, you talked about it, but the number of people who leave here and who are stationed or are waiting to be deployed literally around the world that come through Gulfport is pretty substantial, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have so the way the Seabees works is there's actually two hubs. There's Port Hueneme on the west coast, and so that's Naval Construction Group 1. And then we're Naval Construction.
Hey, let's do this if you don't mind. We're coming to the end of the segment, and what you're about to talk about, I think I don't want to split it up. So what we're going to do when we come back on the other side of the Captain Jeff Deviney, who's the commander of Naval Construction Group 2 or NCG 2. Literally had worldwide experience, and as you can tell, a very good communicator. When we come back after the break, we'll talk about sort of where do the young men and women who come through the CB Naval Construction Battalion Center in Gulfport, where do they go? Where do they get deployed? We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have Captain Jeff Deviney, who's the commander of the Naval Construction Group 2, or the NCG 2, at the Naval Construction Battalion Center in Gulfport. And by the way, just for people who are listening on the radio, what you'll notice is there's a slight delay. We're having to use mobile technology to do this conversation today. The connection's fine, but there's just a slight delay. And for the YouTube and Facebook audience, you may every now and then see the picture blink out on the CB side for a second, and that's just calls coming through. I'm really thankful to my friend Brian Lamar, who is head of public affairs at the CB base, and unfortunately we're not in a position where we can sort of stop incoming phone calls because of the nature of the two people that are the people that are involved in this conversation today. So thanks for hanging in there with us. Hey, listen, Captain Deviney, when we went to break, I was asking where people are deployed who come through Gulfport, and I didn't want you to get halfway into that and have to stop and go to a break. So why don't you start fresh and talk about this so people can get a deep appreciation for what the Naval Construction Battalion Center in Gulfport, what it touches around the world.
Sure. Yeah. So Naval Construction Battalion Center Gulfport is one of two main CB bases. The first Naval Construction Group, our counterpart on the West Coast, is in Port Hueneme, California, which is just north of LA. So they send all of their CBs out to the Pacific in some way. So they're tied to the Pacific. We're different a little bit than them, but we've got three what we call Naval Mobile Construction Battalion, so CB battalion units that make up the majority of our force that are stationed here. We have one Naval Construction Regiment that does command and control for all those when they're deployed. And then in Little Creek, Virginia, Norfolk area, we have a team that does underwater construction. So they're Navy divers who can build things underwater. And then we have another, it's called a CB maintenance unit there. And so that's where they're permanently stationed. So we'll send folks around the globe. We send a large detachment to Guam. So we have kind of a foot in the Pacific over there. And then we send the rest of our CBs from the battalion that's the deployed battalion to Rota, Spain. And from there, so Rota is kind of right by Gibraltar, just to give you a picture on a Spanish naval base there. So right as you go into the Mediterranean, big port for where the Navy stages into the Med. And so from there, we will send out detachments of CBs that are we call task tailored. So depending upon what they need to do, whether they need to build a schoolhouse or a series of bunkers or heavy concrete, we'll send them to different places. So we could have them in the recent past. We've had them in places like Tunisia, Morocco. We've even had some in Israel. We've had them in Romania. I can say that we've had some in Ukraine. We do not have them in Ukraine right now. But really all over the place, in places that we want to either help establish a presence, help train foreign militaries, or help our forces build out infrastructure that can help them accomplish their mission. So it's really, CBs, right? Join the Navy, see the world. Well, the CBs get to join the Navy and travel all over the place, just like the rest of the sailors do. The difference is we call ourselves dirt sailors, so we're on land building things, lots of responsibilities, and it's great to see them at work.
I bet it is. I bet it's incredibly inspiring because all of the young CVs, and not all of them are young, but the truth is that the ones that I have come in contact with are just incredibly solid, people. I mean, they are dedicated. They love what they do. So many of them actually, like you, had a history of Navy heritage in their family, or maybe even a military heritage in their family. A lot of them, they come through Gulfport, then they come back to Gulfport, and they may get stationed somewhere else. But eventually, when it's time to retire, they come back here permanently. They fall in love with this place. So yeah, it's inspiring to get to know them. I've had the real honor of getting to know one or two recently, actually, and I think the world of them. I think they're just incredible citizens, and their dedication to wanting to make a difference and loving what they do is just incredible. I know you see that every day, don't you?
I do, yeah. It's so the interesting thing about Gulfport is, so my purview is over the deployable units here. In addition to that, we also have the Naval Construction Training Center, where a large number of Seabees come for their initial training. They get out of boot camp, then they graduate and come here and learn how to do different types of construction, electrician work, and things like that. And so they go from there to typically a mobile construction battalion, an NMCB we call it. And from there, they deploy all over the world. And these guys and gals, they'll do. I just did a checkout with a senior chief who's next to the highest enlisted rate that we have, who's been in for 26 years. He almost forgot the number of deployments he'd been on. And I think he said 11 or 12. And that's normal, if not low, sometimes. And you're talking 6 to 8 months away from their families. The majority of folks, who are retiring right now, like myself, have been to at least Iraq, sometimes Iraq and Afghanistan. And they've served this country through the longest war we've ever seen, and they're ready for more. But sometimes you're just ready to go. And so it astounds me that, and it makes me proud as an American that we have folks that are willing to raise their right hand and come and do this. And again, the great thing about the Seabees is you learn a trade, you help people. There's just so many parts of it that bring goodness to people.
Well, I hear the enthusiasm in your voice, and I can see that you love what you do. I think one of the keys to being a good leader is you got to love what you do. If you don't love what you do, you probably got to change and go find something else to do. But to have the opportunity to be the commander of NCG2 is probably one of those opportunities where you're soaking it up every day to say, how can I make a difference as a leader?
Yeah, so one of the interesting parts about this career for us on the officer side, we will come and go from the Seabees. And so we're not always with the Seabees. We could be out building things for the Navy with contractors and things like that. But the Seabees stay here, do the hard work. And so when you're in a position like I am, you want to make sure you do right by them, because the decisions that we make here are going to determine the shape of the future force. And we're trying to figure out what that future force looks like. What are we going to need? As we're focused on the Pacific, we see events happening in Europe that make sure that tell us we need to be ready no matter what for anything. And so you want to, as I've got another year and a half left here. I've been here about 6 months, and we want to make sure that we give these troops the equipment and the training they need to succeed once they get out there. And so, so I absolutely feel like it's my responsibility to ensure that they get what they need. And I got a great staff doing it, working with me to do it. And so we give everything we got, trying to make sure that the Seabees can build and fight out there.
And I can't thank you enough for your service. Hey, listen, we got about a minute left. So tell me about the 80th anniversary and the upcoming CB Ball.
So, we were lucky enough because of the decline in COVID numbers that we were able to have our CB birthday ball on March 5th, Saturday, at the Gulf Coast Coliseum there. Having a CB birthday ball is going to be around 600 people. And really, we just get together with mainly active duty spouses and retirees. In the past, we've opened it up, but with COVID, it's not so much this year as open. So hopefully we can do it again next year, but it's going to be great to see everybody. We'll be all dressed up and really just kind of celebrate who we are and that 80-year heritage that our predecessors have built. It's really just all about camaraderie and kind of passing down some of the stories so that, God forbid we ever have to deploy to a place where the bullets start flying. We'll know that we've done that in the past. We've been successful. And it's really just, in the end, it's just going to be fun, and looking forward to kind of getting back to normal before COVID for a little bit.
You bet. Cal, we about out of time, buddy? Is that where we are? Yeah, he's showing me 1 minute left. But listen, it's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to get to know you better. I'm always deeply impressed when folks like you and I get an opportunity to visit. And I can't, like I said earlier, I can't thank you enough for your service. I'm just a big fan of the CBs, and what they've done in this local community over so many years has been absolutely incredible. And what they're doing around the world is absolutely incredible. And we're in challenging times. We know that without even getting into the details. The reality will be that the CBs will once again play an important role in helping in humanitarian efforts and helping in a military mission or whatever it might be around the world. So, Captain Jeff Deviney, Commander of the Naval Construction Group TWO, I really appreciate you taking time to visit with me today.
All right, yeah, thanks, Ricky. It was great. Thank you for putting the word out about the CBs. We're a small community. We like to think we have a big impact, and things like this help us have that impact. So, thanks.
You bet. When we come back, we'll have Mayor Billy Hughes. See you after this break.